Shabbat, Perek Yutet, Mishnah Gimel. Right? So, we said that things that have to do with the circumcision itself, pretty much you're allowed to do everything on Shabbat, even according to Rabbi Akiva, pretty much. The question now is going to be, when on Shabbat you did the circumcision, this is after the circumcision, or even before the circumcision, but let's talk after, it's easier. Now you caused the baby to be sick, kind of.
Why?
He has a wound.
Oh.
So now the question is, how are you allowed to treat the wound? Are you allowed to treat the wound in a regular way? Do you have to treat the wound in another? Because that has nothing to do with the commandment anymore.
Right.
It's after the commandment. So
do the commandment and now.
Yeah. ביאור משנה ג' מרחיצין את הקטן, you're allowed to wash the baby במים חמים, with hot water, בין לפני המילה ובין לאחר המילה, whether it is before the circumcision, whether it is after the circumcision. What is it talking about? ביום המילה. It talks about the day of circumcision. יש מפרשים, there are those who explain, שלפני המילה, that if it's before the circumcision, אין מחממים לו מים בשבת. You're not allowed to warm up water for him on Shabbat, because he's not sick yet.
Right.
Yeah?
Before he's not sick.
That's right. ואין מרחיצים אותו, אלא במים שהוחמו מערב שבת. So it says, you'll be allowed to wash him only in water if you warmed up the water from before Shabbat. ואילו לאחר המילה, but after the circumcision, הואיל ויש בו סכנה, since he is now in danger physically, מותר אפילו לחמם לו מים בשבת. One is allowed to even warm up for him water on Shabbat.
If he's in sakana.
He is in sakana. That's the definition. It was an operation. He had an operation. It is sakana. That's what he's saying. It's sakana. You're allowed to. ומזלפים עליו ביד. And it says you sprinkle on him with your hand. So even though you're allowed to wash him with hot water, it says you should still do it בשינוי. You should do it in a strange manner, not in a regular manner. בגמרא מבאר, in the Gemara it explains, שפסקה זו באה לפרש את הרישא. This verse comes to tell us the beginning of the verse. כיצד מרחיצים את הקטן? How do you wash the small one? מזלפים עליו ביד. You sprinkle on him with your hands. כלומר, שאין מרחיצים אותו כדרגו. You don't wash him the regular way. אלא בשינוי. You give it a difference. כגון בזליפה, you sprinkle upon it. שזורקים עליו המים ביד. You sprinkle on him the water with your hand. אבל לא בכלי. But you don't do it with a vessel. The usual manner. You take a vessel and... Right. אפילו דרך זילוף. Even if you sprinkle it with the vessel. Do it in a completely different manner. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says this verse, don't only learn it for the day of the circumcision, you also learn it for another day. Which other day? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah אומר, מרחיצין את הקטן ביום השלישי. It also tells you that you're allowed to wash the baby on the third day of his circumcision. If the third day of circumcision happened to be on Shabbat, you're allowed to wash him on the third day of circumcision.
Why on the third day?
או למילתו, שחל להיות בשבת. That happens to be on Shabbat. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, actually he didn't learn like I just said. He learns different than what I said. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah חולק על תנא קמא בשני דברים, or maybe he did argue with me. We'll see. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah disagrees with the first Tana, the first person who wrote the Mishnah, בשני דברים, in two things. Number one, first of all he says, מרחיצים את הקטן כדרכו. So if you say you don't need to do it in an unusual manner, once you're allowed to, you're allowed to. You're allowed to do it the regular way, it hasn't to be unusual manner. And bet, שלדעת תנא קמא אין דין זה נוהג אלא ביום המילה. According to Tanna Kama, you're only allowed to do it on the day of circumcision. You're not going to be allowed to do it on the third day of circumcision. והוא סובר, and he thinks, שאף ביום השלישי שחל להיות בשבת מרחיצים אותו. So it is like I said. So he says, not only the day of the circumcision you're allowed to, you're also allowed to when? On the third day. בין במים חמים שוחמו בערב שבת, במים שוחמו בשבת. Even in the third day you're allowed to warm up the water on Shabbat itself for him. Why? לפי שיש בו סכנה. Because it says he has danger. What's the danger? He brings a verse from the Torah. שנאמר באנשי שכם שמלו, because it says in the people of Shechem that circumcised themselves, ויהי ביום השלישי בהיותם כואבים. It was on the third day when they were in pain. You can see that the third day to circumcision has extra pain in it. הרי שביום השלישי יש לנימול כאבים חזקים. On the third day he has great pain. והוא בחזקת סכנת נפשות. Rabbi Eliezer says, since that, this is the case, the baby is considered to be endangered. His life is endangered. ואומנם אין זו ראיה גמורה, but it says, you're going to ask Rabbi Eliezer, that's not a real proof that the third day is dangerous. It's just pain or it's just this. It just tells you that
it's okay, you don't need to.
It just tells you that there's pain. It's not for sure that it's dangerous. It just tells you it's pain. אלא זכר לדבר. It says it's just a mentioning of the thing. It's not a proof. It's maybe support for a proof. You can bring it as support, but not the proof itself. Over here, where's your proof that it's dangerous? I agree with you, the verse says that it's painful. But dangerous, where do you have the proof? So let's see. מכל מקום, מסקנת הגמרא היא, nevertheless, the Gemara discusses if this verse talks about pain or talks about danger, שהלכה כרבי אלעזר בן עזריה. In the end, the Gemara agrees that the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, which means that it is dangerous. The Gemara agrees in the end for the reason that it is dangerous. בין בחמים שהוחמו בשבת, בין בחמים שהוחמו בערב שבת. Whether it was warmed the water from Shabbat, whether it was after Shabbat. בין הרחצת כל גופו, בין הרחצת מילה. And it even agrees that it's not just for the limb itself. You can wash the entire body. They agree. Why? מפני שסכנה היא לו. Everybody agrees in the end. You know what? Even though in the Torah you can ask a question, where's the proof? We still agree with Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. יש מפרשים בדברי רבי אלעזר בן עזריה, there's those who explains in the words of רבי אלעזר בן עזריה, מרחיצים את הקטן אף ביום השלישי. Okay, now the question. Over here it says, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says on the third day you're allowed to circumcise it. So there's two ways to learn it. There's a way to learn it, you're allowed to, on the first day he agrees, somebody else already says. So it says you should also know that on the third day you're allowed to. In other words, on the second day, according to him, you wouldn't be allowed to.
Right.
And there are those who say, no, when he meant on the third day, he meant the first 3 days. Okay, so let's look through it. המרחיצים את הקטן אף ביום השלישי. It says you even allowed to, when it says the third day, it says even on the third day. Some people read it this way. וכל שכן בשני הימים הראשונים. And how much more so in the first 2 days. שהסכנה בהם הם ברובם ביום השלישי. Because maybe the pain on the third day is the most, but the danger on the first 2 days is even more on the first 2 days. ולא נאמר ויהי ביום השלישי אותם כואבים. So why did he tell you the third day by the people of Shechem, when they're still in pain, when they have so much pain? אלא לומר שעדיין היו כואבים. It doesn't come to tell you that they were in pain less than the second and the first day. They come to tell you that the pain lasts for 3 days. That's how some people live. That's not the simple meaning.
That's why you can wash it.
Yeah, but by the way, that's not the simple explanation of the verse. If you remember, Rashi says they specifically come on the third day because it was the worst day.
Right. That's why Hashem came to Abraham.
That's right. Especially on the third day because it was the worst. Because it was the worst day. That's not a simple explanation. So the most logical way to learn him that it's on the third day and not on the second day.
Right.
So שעדיין היו כואבים, אף שבאותו יום היו חלושים ביותר, or in that day they were extra weak, ולא היו יכולים לברוח ולהילחם, they weren't able to run away. ואילו בשני הימים הראשונים, but in the first 2 days, אף על פי שהם מסוכנים ביותר, even though they're very dangerous, מכל מקום עדיין לא תשש כוחם. Nevertheless, it's still not halal. So now he explains. You know why the third day, they waited for the third day? Not because it was the most dangerous. Because there were already 3 days with high temperature, let's call it. And after 3 days with high temperature, it's better to fight somebody after 2 days of high temperature because the body is weaker. So you don't learn from it that it's the most dangerous. It's not the most dangerous. It's just because it had
accumulating the days in a way.
Yeah, it's accumulation of the days. That's the way he learns it. אבל מדברי הרמב"ם, but from the words of the Rambam, משמע, and here the Rambam is going to learn not like this way. שלא בא רבי אליעזר בן עזריה להוסיף התנא קמא אלא יום השלישי למילתו. The Rambam says disagrees. No, it's only the third day you're allowed. If it's in the second day, you're not allowed to wash him. You're not allowed to wash the baby. If the second day after Shabbat. כלומר, שאף לדעתו אין מרחיצים את הקטן אלא ביום המילה או ביום השלישי למילה. Even according to the Rambam, you can either wash the baby on the day of the circumcision or on the third day of the circumcision. You ask the Rambam, but I washed him in the second day of circumcision, didn't you know? The Rambam says, go bring a chatatna. Go bring a sin offering. You did something wrong. You didn't know, bring something wrong. You did something wrong. אבל ביום השני למילתו אין מרחיצים אותו. On the second day you're not allowed to wash him. שאין בו סכנה. Because it's not dangerous the second day. וכן משמע מדברי הריף. This is also, it looks like from the words of the ריף. שמביא בשם הגאוני. The ריף brings in the name of the sages. הלכה כרבי אלעזר בן עזריה ביום השלישי. The halacha is like, you wash the baby on the third day. וכל שכן בראשון. How much more so on the first day. שמרחיצים אותו כדרכו בין לפני מילה, בין לאחר מילה. You do it before the circumcision, even or after the circumcision. The Rif says, even before the circumcision, you're allowed to wash him. It's a preparation for the operation, let's call it. בין בחמים שוכמו בשבת, בין בחמים שוכמו בערב שבת. It doesn't matter how you warmed up the water. בין לפני המילה, whether it was before the circumcision. היינו דווקא בחמים שוכמו מערב שבת. So he says, no, I still agree with the Tanaka, with the first opinion, that there's 2 different ways of warm water. If the warm water was on Shabbat, warmed up on Shabbat, then you're only allowed to use it after the Milah, not before the Milah. So he still agrees with us, the way we learned it. והפסקה בין וחמים שוכמו בשבת אינה מוסבת על הרחיצה של אחר המילה. It says it only goes on the washing after the circumcision, not on the washing before the circumcision. Now comes... Finished with this one. Okay, I think the halacha today is like the Rambam. That's what I think. That's the way it is. In other words, second day is not dangerous.
Why don't they bring from Avraham Avinu גם היה כל ביום שלישי, and Hashem came to visit him especially because of it. שבאלוני ממרא, אחרי הברית שלו.
Let's think for 1 second. In Avraham Avinu, there's no proof that the third day he was sicker than the second day.
There's no proof, אבל רש"י אומר שם.
But it doesn't say that he was worse than the second day.
Neither for Ishmael and the other ones who were circumcised, it doesn't speak of any of them.
The Torah doesn't say, but Rashi says.
Rashi doesn't say it was the worst day. It says God waited 3 days to come and visit him.
And he said why? Because ביום השלישי, משהו עם החולה שהוא...
He does say that? Yeah, we have to check. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. Safek.
Okay.
What about when you have a doubt? When you have a doubt. What does it mean you have a doubt? Yesh mefarshim. So there's a couple of explanations with the case of a doubt. Let's just explain this because it doesn't apply to today. So a lot of people get confused with it. In the Torah way, there was an accepted norm about babies. It says that if the baby is born to 9 months, he's going to be a healthy baby. If the baby is born to 7 months, 7-month gestation, like early, he's also going to be a healthy baby. What's the problem? The problem with our babies that are born on the 8th month.
Oh, the
8th. It says it's worse to be born on the 8th month than on the 7th month. I think this is also medically true to today, but today because of medicine, they take care of the situation with no problems. There is something that develops between the 7 and 8 month. So if in the 7 months you don't have it, it's not good. But if it's halfway through development, it starts taking over from the regular process of the body, then the baby is in danger because it's not here and not there. Yeah. So it's known that a baby in the 8th month when he's born, wait 1 second, in 8th month when he's born, he's not expected to live. Baby that was born in the 8th month of gestation at that time was not expected to live. It's not like today. So this is what we're talking about. Yes.
So on the 4th day, it says it's improprietous to infant health. So what if the 8th day of a child's life falls on the 4th day of the week? When it's
if it's on the 4th day of the week, you can do whatever you want whenever you want.
Well, yes, but it says in the Torah that it's improprietous to infant health. So is it more dangerous to do it on the 4th day versus other days?
On the 4th day of what?
The week.
We're not talking about the 4th day of the week over here. We're talking the 4th or the 3rd day of circumcision itself. 3 days after circumcision.
Since birth.
I was confused with since life or days of the week.
No. It was 3 days from the time of circumcision.
I got confused.
Okay.
I'm with you.
That's okay. So this is the thing. This is a doubt. When you say a doubt, it means if we have a doubt whether this baby is going to be alive or not. So if there's a doubt on a baby that there's chazaka, let's call it, there's a string that we have a precedent that these babies are alive, we are allowed to make the circumcision. What about if the 8th month old baby, it's a doubt whether this baby is going to be alive or not? It's doubtful. So the question is, will you be allowed to circumcise such a baby on Shabbat? That's the question. Of course, you're allowed to take care of it. But the question is, are you allowed to do the circumcision on Shabbat? Okay. ספק. יש מפרשים, there are those who explain, ולד שהוא ספק בין 7 חודשים, ספק בין 8. This is a child who was born, we're not sure whether he was born to 7 months of gestation or to 8 months. כלומר שאין ידוע אם נולד בחודש השביעי לעיבורו, we don't know if it was in 7, והוא בן קיום, and the chazaka means that most babies who were born in the 7th month are going to be alive. Yeah? או שנולד בחודש השמיני ואינו בן קיום. Or he was born on the 8th month that most babies are not alive. Or it's half-half, it's 50-50. Yeah? So we don't have the majority baby alive. או ולד שהוא ספק בין 8 חדשים, ספק בין 9. Or he's born in between 8 and 9, you're not sure he was 8 or 9. וההלכה היא, and the law is, בבין 8, והואיל והוא אינו בן קיום, אין מילתו דוחה שבת. What do you mean? We know that the 8th, we just say.
Baby that was born in the 8th month, then you don't do the circumcision on time.
On time, that's right, because it's a suffix. It's a doubt. It's a doubt whether this baby.
But it's also a doubt that if this baby is going to be after 90 days, that is Bayer Kayama, no?
So how much more so not to do circumcision? It's dangerous, you're not allowed to.
Yeah, but they go by the time.
Yeah.
They go by it's a medical condition, kind of.
No.
In a way.
Yeah. Don't think about it, a medical condition over here. Think about it, chazaka. Chazaka condition. The chazaka
condition.
Chazaka means the majority of the baby of that time would live in the 7th month. So they tell you the majority of the babies live if they're born in the 7th month. The majority of the baby lives when they're born in the 9th month. We're not sure about if the majority of baby lives on the 8th month. So if the majority of the baby don't live on the 8th month, that makes the baby doubtful whether it's going to be alive. And it takes 30 days, by the way, to make the chazaka. If he lives for 30 days, now you can do whatever. But you don't have the proof of 30 days yet. So therefore it's a doubt whether it should be circumcised or not. Think about it this way. Yeah. But you understand the concept.
Yeah, the concept I understand.
ויש מפרשים, there are those who explain, ספק. There's another doubt, שספק הוא עם יום מילתו בשבת. The other explain the safek. So there's two. The first safek, he was born in the 8th month.
Okay.
Second safek, maybe he was born Friday night. He was born after the woman lit the candles, like 18 minutes later, and now you're not sure if the baby is born on Friday or on Shabbos. If he was born on Friday, then you should have the debris on Friday. But maybe he was born on Shabbos. So you say, so push it for Shabbos, then for sure you're good. He says, no, you're not allowed to do it on Shabbos because you're not sure he was born on Shabbos, so therefore you will have to wait one more day to Sunday.
This Suffolk I like, the other one I don't.
But it's the same idea.
Okay.
You see, כגון שנולד בערב שבת בין השמשות ואין ידוע אם יום השמיני הוא בערב שבת. You don't know if the 8th day is Friday or בשבת or on a Saturday. You're not allowed to do it on a Friday because maybe it's on a Saturday. On a Saturday for sure you should be allowed to do it because it's for sure it's the right time. If it's not on Friday for sure it's on but now it's a suffix of Saturday so you won't be allowed to do it. By the way, this is
not allowed to do it on Saturday.
Not on Saturday. Not if he was born בין השמשות. What about if the baby is an androgynous? It's a baby that was born with female parts and male parts. Such a baby, would you be allowed to circumcise him on Shabbat? ואנדריגנס, שיש לו סימני זכר ונקבה כאחד. He has both parts. He has female parts and male parts, yes?
Is it worse to accidentally perform a circumcision on something that's not proper, or to just leave or not circumcise?
No, you can just wait one more day and do it on the next day.
I just meant like in total, like if you were unsure about the person total, should you just avoid the circumcision as to not accidentally?
No, you should do the circumcision, but the problem over here that it's Shabbat. You're not allowed to do circumcision on Shabbat.
Oh.
Only, let's say...
You are, but you're not.
Yeah. Only a kosher, only a mitzvah for sure pushes away Shabbat. If the mitzvah is not for sure, for example, all these cases, even in androgynous, the mitzvah is not for sure, it's not for sure you should get circumcised, you can still do it, but just don't do it on Shabbat.
Okay.
Yeah. ואנדריגנס, an androgynous שיש לו סימני זכר ונקבה כאחד, is both a male and a female, both parts, אין מחללים עליו את השבת, you're not allowed to, for example, if it's on the 3rd day, you're not allowed to wash him if it falls on Shabbat. ואין מלים אותו בשבת, and therefore you're not even going to allow to circumcise him on Shabbat. Rabbi Yehuda matir באנדרוגynous. Rabbi Yehuda says you're allowed to in androgynous. Now let's see what's the machloket, what's the disagreement. שנאמר, because Rabbi Yehuda says, look, I have a verse. What does the verse say? המול לכם כל זכר. It says you should circumcise every male. ודורש רבי יהודה, and Rabbi Yehuda says, what does it say, the word kol? It should say, circumcise to you a male. I know that all the males, why does it say every male? What does every male come to teach you? To even include even a person that you might think is not a real male. Why? It's got female parts. But it says anybody who has a male member include. So that's an aside. Kol zachar lerabot androgynous. It says this, the word all, kol, comes to teach you that you even circumcise an androgynous, and it's a commandment in the Torah. The Torah itself says, which means that you're allowed, it means that it pushes away Shabbat. Beram Tanakama, but the Tanakama disagrees with Rabbi Yehuda. He says, Lomed bima sheneemar, it says, he learns from a different verse. It says, Ubayom mashmoni imol basara olato. He learns it from the verse, and on the 8th day, he should circumcise the flesh of his orla, of his foreskin. So what does it mean? It says, Mishehu kolo arel, somebody that is entirely has foreskin. That's the way he learns it. We have to look in the Gemara how he exactly darshans the verse. But he says that verse means that it needs to be a whole male, not half a male.
שכאילו הוא כולו ערל, הוא לא יכול להיות גם
ערל וגם אישה. Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. Exactly how he learns it, I'm not sure. יום השמיני שלו דוחה שבת. Says only that guy that is completely has foreskin, he pushes away Shabbat. יצא אנדריגנוס שחציו נקבה. Over here we push away the androgynous that half of him is female. שאין מילתו דוחה שבת. That his milah, his circumcision, does not push away Shabbat. וההלכה כתנא קמא. The halacha is going to be like Tanna Kama, that it's androgynous, you do not circumcise on Shabbat, you will wait after Shabbat. Okay. ביארנו את הרשע של משנתנו, we explained the beginning of the Mishnah, כי פירושם של רב יהודה ורבא בר אבוה בגמרא. Like the explanation of רב יהודה and רבא בר אבוה. אבל רבא מפרש בדרך אחרת. רבא learns the entire Mishnah that we just learned, he learns it completely different. Let's quickly go through how he learns it. מרחיצים את הקטן בין לפני המילה ובין לאחר המילה. You wash the small person, the baby, before circumcision, after circumcision. ביום הראשון כדרכו. On the first day you wash him regular manner, you don't have to change. ומזלפים עליו ביד אבל לא בכלי. And then he says, and you sprinkle him on the hand but not בכלי. That talks about the third day. The way we learned it, it's the same thing. First day or third day. He learns it, no. First day you're allowed to do whatever. Third day you have to do בשינוי. אבל אוקיי. היינו ביום השלישי שחל בשבת. This is the third day of circumcision that happened to be on Shabbat. שאין מחיצים אותו כדרכו אלא דרך שליפה בלבד. You don't wash him the right way, but you have to sprinkle. רבי אלעזר בן עזריה אומר, רבי אלעזר בן עזריה says, מרחיצים את הקטן ביום השלישי שחל להיות בשבת. He says, you wash the baby in the third day that happened to be on Shabbat. כלומר, which means שאף ביום השלישי למילתו מרחיצים את הקטן בשבת כדרכו. Even on the third day of the circumcision, you wash the small baby on his way. ברם, בגמרא מובא, in the Gemara it's brought, שרבא בעצמו מודה, that רבא himself admits, כי משמעות לשוט המשנה היא כפירושם של רב יהודה ורבא בר אבוה. He says, you know what, this is my explanation, but the Mishnah, I agree that it means that it's the same thing, first day and third day. אף על פי כן נוקטים מפרשים אחדים, דווקא את פירושו של רבא, שכן בגמרא וזאת ברייתא כדבריו. Even though that Rabbi in the end admits to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Bar Abuah, he says, you know what, I thought about it, guys, you're right. The halacha actually goes like Rava. Why does it go like Rava? Because there's another Braita that says it in a long way that looks like it agrees with him and not with them. Okay. בעניין ספק השנוי במשנתנו, when we talked about doubt, that we said there are 3 cases of doubt. Actually 2 cases. Yeah? If it falls Friday and Shabbos, between Friday and Shabbos, or it falls in between the 7th and 8th or the 8th and 9th. Gestation. הבאנו שני פירושים, we brought 2 explanations. אבל יש מקשים על הפירוש הראשון. But there are some people who says the first explanation, the ones you didn't like, they say we have a problem with it. שכן בגמרא מתבאר, because in the Gemara it's brought, שספק בין 7, ספק בין 8, מילתו דוחה שבת. That in between 7 and 8, we are going to push away Shabbat, the Gemara says. וכן גם פוסק הרמב"ם, and the Rambam also says, it's only between 8 and 9 that's the problem, not between 7 and 8. ספק בין 7, ספק בין 8, it's a doubt between 7 and 8, מלים אותו בשבת על כל פנים. You do on half of it. We don't know what the Rambam says on 8 and 9 yet. Wait.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But on 7 and 8 he says you do give him circumcision. We're not worried about the 8th guy. אם בן 7 הוא ושלם הוא. So it says if he's 7 months old and he's complete, בדין הוא שידחה שבת. Then you should push Shabbat anyway, because most of the 7 months are going to be alive. ואם בן 8 הוא, and if you want to say he's in 8 months, he was born in the 8 months, הרי זה שמל, כשמחתך בשר הוא, לפי שזה נפל אם הוא בן 8. הרי זה שמל, כמחתך, it says, what are you worried? You know, there is no way you can kill the baby. In other words, why we don't want to do it to the 8th guy, he says, because you're worried about his health, right? But over here, what are you worried about? According to your calculation, it is doubt. Which means if he's a dead person anyway, that's your purpose. He might, doesn't. So he says, what do you care? If he's a dead person anyway, he's just like cutting a steak. What did you do? You cut a piece of meat. Nothing happened.
Right, that's what I...
You didn't do nothing. You didn't do circumcision, but so but
You did circumcision.
no, it's not considered circumcision because the baby is dead. It's a piece of flesh. He's dead.
Oh, God forbid.
Yeah, that's what he said. The baby is dead in our mind. So you didn't. So even if you did the circumcision, it's like cutting a piece of bread, a piece of meat. Nothing happened. You went Mechalel Shabbos. You didn't break Shabbat in any manner.
Okay.
So you didn't break Shabbos even though it's like cutting a piece of unprepared meat that's not for food.
You're not doing circumcision. It's not considered circumcision. That's why I know it's a hard concept a little bit. The idea is like this. The reason why we are not supposed to circumcise the baby on the 8th month is because maybe the baby is considered to be dead. So it says, if the baby is considered to be dead, then
You're not
allowed to break Shabbat for him. So over here he said, even if it's considered dead, I'm not breaking Shabbat. All I'm doing is cutting a piece of meat. That's not called breaking Shabbat. According to, this is what the Rambam says. מכאן כותב בעל כסף משנה, from here the כסף משנה writes, שספק השינוי במשנתנו, that the ספק that is written in our Mishnah, שאין מחללים עליו את השבת, that you don't break Shabbat for him, הוא לעניין מכשירי מילה. It is for the things that we learn to preparation for the circumcision, not the circumcision itself. The circumcision itself you're allowed to do, but the washing and the preparation, and if you have a bandage, it should be there, don't bring it in Rishut HaRabim, that's what it's talking about. ומשנתנו היא כדברי רבי אלעזר. And the Mishnah is according to the words of Rabbi Eliezer, הסובר שאף מכשירי מילה דוחים את השבת. He says the reason why the Mishnah says you're allowed to do it, because Rabbi Eliezer says that the preparation for milah also pushes away Shabbat, but not everybody agrees with him. ואילו בוולד שהוא ספק בין 7, ספק בין 8, אין מכשירי המילה דוחים את השבת. But in a ספק, doubt, whether he is 7-month-old or 8-month-old, then the preparation for the circumcision does not push away Shabbat. Only the circumcision itself. או שספק זה עניינו נולד בין השמשות. Or you want to learn, the doubt is that it's between Friday night and Shabbos. That's an easier doubt, and then you don't have a problem. You can do whatever you want. Okay. We'll stop over here. That was a complicated one. And the concept is very hard concept. The 8th day. It looks like until the baby becomes 30 days old, we're going to consider this baby dead. He's only proved himself that he's alive. And by the way, you get it in many things. Why are you saying it's
because you don't know that you can't go by the rov, because you're talking about chaim here. And if you're going to be doche ביום השמיני, this poor guy that is going to live, they say, we thought we were going to be dead.
Very good.
But we did it in the 9th day because it was Shabbos and
very
consider
good.
us dead.
He didn't change the status. Very good question. This is actually has to do with today's discussions about abortions. We say this baby remains in the womb until 30 days. It's still like a baby in the womb. He's not a real human being that if you kill him, it's considered to be murder.
But he's out.
I know, but he doesn't have chazaka of being alive.
And he's on the table here.
And he doesn't have chazaka of being alive until he has chazaka of being alive. Chazaka means that most of the babies are going to be alive under that circumstances.
So therefore they have to wait 30 days on all the babies and then do circumcision.
No, because chazaka...
30 days and then 8 more.
No, chazaka means...
Then you have a chazaka and then, okay, good.
You only need chazaka when you don't have a chazaka. Chazaka of most babies that are born to 7 months is that they're going to be alive. That's the chazaka.
Okay, the chazaka of most babies, that you know that this baby is going to survive, is 30 days. Right?
Yeah, but you don't need chazaka there anymore because you already have the chazaka that most babies on 7 months, that already kicks in the value of the baby. It kicks in the value already. That's right. I don't need the other chazaka. I already have chazaka. Over here, I don't have chazaka that he's alive. That's the problem. Okay. I don't have chazaka that he's alive.
He's alive.
It's an interesting... it's very interesting.
Very, very interesting.
I don't have, most babies are not alive that are born this way. So if most babies are not alive, I'll have to consider him not alive until he proves himself. Once he proves himself, then he has chazaka. So I'm considering him almost like he's still in the mother's stomach. That's the way I'm going to consider him. In other words, there'll be a question. If somebody murders such a baby, can you give him a death penalty? And the answer is, you cannot give him a death penalty for the murder of such a baby.
Because he's in the womb. He's not
alive.
It's
It's like, that's why it's like killing somebody who's a treifa. Somebody that the doctor says he's going to be dead within a month or within a year. It says, you're not allowed to kill such a person, obviously, but you cannot get the death penalty for it. Okay? Can give you other penalties for it.
Suicide permitted for those people?
No. Suicide is never permitted.